Queen, you are more than magic, natural, radiant, melanated, and proud. You are more than enough. You are wonder, you are light, you are the beginning of time and time itself. The universe is in awe of you. Honeybees collect the finest nectar just to bless your skin. Put your best face forward. Manifest your glow up. Claim what's already yours.
Hi, I'm Tadra Mitchell-Jackson, Head of Marketing for SheaMoisture, and so excited to introduce our panel, Hold the Crown, Our Hair, Our Stories, presented by SheaMoisture. Locked, pressed, braided, relaxed, knotted, or natural, Black hair is a thing to behold. It holds mystery and meaning. Its curls contain our stories and our connection to the past and the present. And in the entertainment industry, which exports our narratives to the entire world, our hair has been misunderstood and misrepresented, both on and off camera. So we're excited to have this conversation today from amazing people from all facets of the industry who will shed a light on what it's like and what they want the world to know, and how our business can elevate the conversation, shatter stereotypes, and make change for this industry and beyond. So I'm really excited to welcome my panelists, who include some amazing women in the ministry, in the industry, but it is a ministry, isn't it? Bethy Gibbs, who is a director, stylist, the owner of Bethy Beauty Supply, and co-owner of Streetwear Mecca Union. Also very excited to welcome our celebrity hairstylist on the panel, because hair is so critical to the conversation, Shaylin Jones. And then we are so excited to have Tanika Ray, who is a TV host, podcast, and a director. And last but not least, April Dominguez, who is a beauty industry vet. And she's the founder of a stylist and barber resource app called Handsome. So welcome, ladies, to the panel. Welcome to an amazing conversation. We're going to get started as we talk about holding the crown. You are all creators in your industry in different ways: on-screen talent, artist behind the scenes, beauty business owner, or all three. We all are from different backgrounds in different parts of the world, different family structures. But one thing we all share is that we have a personal hair journey. I'd love for you to briefly describe your personal hair journey. And that can go to anyone.
Okay, I'll go. No, are you going to go, Bethy?
No, go. You're actually one of my hair icons. I've always loved you've always worn your hair natural. It's so beautiful. Looks beautiful now.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. My hair journey is pretty organic. I grew up in Los Angeles, so I had a lot of hair freedom as a little girl. We went to the beach a lot. We swam a lot. And I think that's important to mention, because it was a culture that didn't push doing your hair the right way. And it wasn't until, and so I was always natural, I had long natural hair. And it wasn't until I decided to go to Spelman, my alma mater, where I learned that people lived a very different way. My best friends ended up being from Houston and South Carolina and Atlanta. And they made it very clear pretty much week 2, sweetie, on Fridays, we wet set our hair for the weekend. That's what we do. And so I dove into that lifestyle, and we wet set our hair in the dorms for a Friday and Saturday night. And that's what I learned was what Black culture did. However, I reverted back after school. I still wasn't down with the perm so much. My mom, however, was really good at kind of sneaking, we're just going to control it a little bit, just a little perm. And it wasn't, so I didn't even really know my hair was curly, to be honest. I thought my hair was more straight, which I didn't love or hate. It was really other people's opinions about it. I was like, it's just hair. And it wasn't until I had an agency over my own head of hair that I realized, I've got curls, and it's easy, and it feels like me. it's an expression of who I am. It felt very rebellious, especially after my Spelman experience. And I'm a little rebel. I'm a free spirit. And I think a mile away, you can tell exactly who I am and how I rock through the world. And so for me, that was kind of it. I stuck to it, wore my hair on TV in 2004 that way, and never stopped.
I love that. Rebellion, free agency, free spirit, and being able to express all of that through your hair. Anyone else? What about your personal hair journey?
I mean, I can speak. I'm still on my hair journey. It's
As
like,
many of us are.
you know, um, I'm actually, yeah, I had dreadlocks for a long time, which became a huge part of my identity. I didn't grow up with dreadlocks. I grew up, my mom is Jamaican, and, I had really kinky, coarse hair, and she just didn't really know what to do with it. So she, gave me a perm. She actually gave me a Jerry curl. And that was, that had some trauma attached to it.
Pillowcase drama.
Pillowcase, and just being the girl at school with the Jerry curl, like that's a whole story in itself. Like when people touch it and they're like, it was a whole thing. And then the whole, stigma around Jerry curls, and so eventually I came into my own. I was a teenager and I started putting a hair relaxer in my hair, but I grew up in Hawaii. So I was also in water a lot, and then in California. So I always put like sun in my hair. I was always trying to bleach it, get it that natural, color. But it was hard because I just didn't know how to take care of my hair, but I didn't want it to be a thing I had to think about. And so I just wasn't considered, I just didn't really take care of my hair. And until I moved to New York and back to New York, and I don't know, just being around more Black and brown people, I just was able to find places that could do my natural hair. And I met friends that were also trying to go natural, and, similar to Tamika's story, just try to figure it out. And then I ended up growing dreadlocks, and that became my identity for a really long time. And then when I cut off the dreadlocks, it was like a whole other adventure, because I hadn't done my hair in 10 years. And then all of a sudden I had to do it again. And it was like I was a mess. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't want to wearing hair extensions. I didn't really I wanted to wear my natural hair, and it was a challenge to do. I have 4C hair. And so it just requires a lot of work. And especially if you're working full time, I was working in the music industry at the time. And so I didn't really have time to take care of my hair, and do all the things that 4C hair requires. So it was hard.
Yeah.
Say.
No.
I definitely think trends plays a big, deal in our hair journey.
Certainly.
It's like what's acceptable and then what's not. So
yeah.
It's all,
unless you don't care.
But luckily we're moving into, and I think a lot of people feel the way that you do, Beth, but we're also having a chance to move into a place where there's less rules and regulations.
Yeah.
What we say goes. And there is a liberty that hopefully we're all being able to find. So I really appreciate your journey. Shaylin, I'd love to hear from you. We think about all of the firsts that have happened in terms of Black hair. I even think about the all Afro cover on British Vogue recently, and how we're still experiencing these firsts. What is your earliest memory of Black hair on screen or in print or somewhere where you thought that it was really representative and wow, there we are?
Honestly, my earliest memory is tied to where my hair journey began, because it was in the salons with my mom and my sister. We would go every 2 weeks, and I would peel through those magazines and see images of beautiful Black women that look like me with all different types of hairstyles, from pin curl ponytails to flips to French rolls, and I copy every single one of them. Every one. I pointed. I would just sit in the chair and point. This is the one I want. So that was important for me to see where I was represented. And no, I felt limitless. I would get those styles, and you could not tell me I was not cute. I would get those styles and I would rock them to school. And I mean, honestly, that's how I started even doing makeup, because my friends were impressed by what was happening on the weekends from the salon.
I love that. I love this idea of being limitless, and being able to have those points of inspiration. Um, April, I'd love to hear from you, even as you think about your earliest hair memory, but also how hair has been an inspiration for your business. I mean, hair is big business, and Black hair is as well. Estimates are it's somewhere around 25 billion. So, would love to hear about your hair journey. But what drew you to this space, and why was ownership here really important for you?
Yeah, thank you so much, Chandra, for the question. And I just have to say, it is such an honor to be here with all of you. I'm just like lit up by the powerfulness that's going on in here. So it's just very cool. And, my journey is actually a little bit different. And just a slight correction to my intro at the beginning. I'm actually not from the behind the chair. I'm not a beauty industry vet. My sister actually is. And she is a co-founder of Handsome as well. And we had been on this journey together for a while. And what drew me to hair and what really brought me into the industry was that prior to this, I was working in an oil and gas industry. So I was the fifth hire at a startup, helped grow that company to 50 employees. We raised and deployed 130 million in capital. But when I looked around the table, I realized that, I was helping a lot of really mega rich Caucasian men get richer. And there was nobody that looked like me or came from a background like I did. And at the same time, I'm witnessing my sister. And in my entire life, we come from a family of hairstylists and salon owners, barbershops, and I'm watching my sister live her authentic self, like getting to show up in the salon as authentically as she chooses. And just like you all were talking about, like your hair is such a representation of who you are. And I'm living sort of this opposite lifestyle of having to be very structured and wearing a white collared suit and all of this stuff to work. And we came together with this mission to create a platform that's really serving underrepresented people. The global hair industry, salons alone, generate $190 billion. 90% of hairstylists are female. There's more stylists in the US than police officers or doctors. 66% of barbers are Black and Latinx, and they're just massively overlooked and underrepresented. And so for me, it's really important that we create these platforms of education where people can start to really embody and live their authentic lives. And I really believe that beauty in this industry is such a key pathway in order to do that.
I love that. And I love the opportunity for that authenticity and for people really to create their own pathways. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for the correction. You and your sister sound like an amazing, amazing duo. So that's really exciting. I want to switch gears just a little bit and come back to Tanika. So I know you've had a number of memorable moments in your career in terms of the roles that you've played, television, Will Smith, in terms of the Will Smith and Living Single and like all of these amazing moments that you've had. And hair always kind of shows up as an important part in those moments. What is that collaborative process like when you're trying to prepare for these roles? And how does this add to the way that you bring your characters to life?
Well, you mean through my hair specifically? Well,
yeah, like you're preparing for a role, and then
yeah,
when you're thinking about your hair, how does it either help you with bring your character's life? How does it inhibit, or how does it support, how you're able to show up on screen?
Yes. So I have had many chapters in my life. I was a professional dancer, so I'm in almost all your favorite 90s videos. And then from there, transitioned into acting and loved it for a moment, but really knew my calling was hosting. I love, love, love being able to connect with people and bring their light to the world. And so I'm very lucky, and I know that I'm blessed that I don't have to be in corporate America where there are so many standards and rules and regulations. So I know that my job, being that I could be a little bit more free, I come to the table like, this is what you get. You either take it or leave it. And you don't give them options. And luckily, because I was so, they're like, okay, I get it. She's completely rooted in this. Her hair makes sense with her personality, with who she is, how she presents herself, and how she connects with people. I guess we're taking it. So if you don't give people an option, you say, this is who I am, they take it if they want you. If they don't, then they're going to try to find somebody else for whatever reason. And so once you become really rooted in it's either for me or it's not, then, and you put your hands up and you're very content with that, people take you as you are. And I remember being up for a job. It was a very big job for NBC. And it was a big dating show. I want to say it was Marry a Millionaire, some old show. And my hair at the time was sort of a burgundy pink, but it was still natural. And they said, well, you're going to have to straighten your hair. And I said, well, thank you for the opportunity, but no, thank you. And it moved on. But what that did was I was able to hold on to who I am. And if I had said yes forevermore in my career, they would have demanded I straighten my hair. I said no. And guess what? The floodgates opened to the show that I did do, which is an entertainment show. Oh, I never played a journalist before. Let me see if I can do it. And that became my calling. So we have to stand firm in who we are and make people see us exactly how we want to be presented. And then you can do no wrong. So I literally, from that move of saying no, my life exploded. And now people know me as, like what Beth was saying, I'm the natural hair girl. Now, of course, it wouldn't be bad if I like straighten my hair every once in a while, but now I feel like I'm the curly girl. I can't do that. But either way, I think it's about freedom of choice, freedom of expression. And, your hair looks beautiful the way it is. Could I rock that? Sure. Will I feel like myself? Maybe not.
Yeah.
And that's what.
If you decide to rock it, SheaMoisture has some stuff that can help you. So whatever you decide.
That's a verbal contract, Mama. I love it.
We have some support. Beth, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. I mean, I think even you know, as my hair icon, switching it up and like straightening it. I think it's the versatility of our hair. And like, I literally like spend hours on YouTube videos just watching like, the girls like, doing all the stuff to their hair, especially when I need a hairstyle. But like, I just really, there's so many different ways we can wear our hair. And it's actually like such a blessing that we have this hair. We can do straight and we can do curly and we can do all these different like styles. We could be anyone. Like, I feel like when I switch up my hair, it's like a costume. I'm just like, who am I going to be today? And
I do that with clothes. I think that's such an important point because I was listening to our sis who's like a ponytail or bob, or you switched all the time. I don't know where I would find the time in my life, being the mother of a 7-year-old right now. She's quarantining because somebody in her class got COVID. So it's hard. Where are you going to find it? For me, I see myself more like Simon Cowell. Same shirt, same hair, like same hair, switch up the outfit. You got to know yourself though, right?
Yeah, fully. The uniform. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's great, I think, Tanika, that you've been able to model and to take a stand and to really operate in the liberation of knowing who you are. I think other people are getting there. And I think the industry has not always been as open to that. And Shaylin, I'm really interested with you on the other side, where you're working with clients who have to bring or want to bring their authentic selves to the screen. And maybe have some conflicts with how they're supposed to show up. How have you helped your clients navigate that?
Honestly, I really love the collaborative process that I have with my clients. And something that I love that Tanika said was not to give in or to say no. And sometimes you do have a time where you have to stand your ground on, maybe it's the look of the character that you're portraying, and you really want to feel a certain way when you're bringing that to life. And so then it's my job to bring my expertise and bring it together with their vision and see, what do I know and how can I embrace their vision and bring it to life through what I know. So I think it's important also to say a lot of veteran actors that I have been privileged to work with have had conversations with me about the necessity that they needed to say no to things about how they look and how they present it on screen. And I think that it's not necessarily in being locked into one look, but it's more so in having the power in yourself and knowing yourself and the power to say, this is where I'm going. This is the look that I'm going to have. And I think that is where the beauty is, not necessarily in I'm only natural or I'm only straight, but more so I feel I should be this, so that is what I am.
No, I think it's
sorry, can I add something quickly? Because I think that is so powerful, and especially when it's a role and it's on television or film, because the people that make those decisions, unfortunately, don't look like us.
Absolutely.
So sometimes if it's a lawyer or a judge, they're like, oh, but she's got to have straight hair. Wait a minute. No, sir. Nobody knows more about how Black women rock through the world than Black women.
Absolutely.
So if we are educated and we have all the credentials, but we might have, an afro, there should be nothing wrong with that. And we should do everything in our power to encourage them to see that possibility. So I love what you said. Thank you.
That is so true. I think there's also, though, as you think about the industry, it's a progressive industry, but there are still some moments of discrimination on the basis of Black hair, especially when you think about protective styles, you think about natural styles. There's a reality there. And the Crown Act, which is sponsored by our sister brand Dove, seeks to end this once and for good. I'm wondering, are there any other stories where you either experienced this working in the industry, or is there any thought on what really can be done to help stop this practice?
In my experience, I really think that we need to, on this side of the industry, continue to put Black people wearing natural hair and protective styles in meaningful roles. And I say meaningful because I would love to see a judge with an afro in the courtroom portrayed on screen. Who says that an afro isn't regal? It is because it's who we are. So I think that if we normalize that and continue creating roles for that, for our hair to be showcased in spaces where we actually do dwell, there are plenty of Black judges that should feel free enough to free their fro. And I think that if we encourage that, we'll be moving the Crown Act even further.
We have to normalize it, right? And normalizing it means that we show up in those spaces with no apology.
And we need more of us behind the camera as well. More directors, more women directors, Black women directors.
Absolutely.
So we don't necessarily have to tell the literal story of hair, but you see how it's weaved into the characters that we have that have different hairstyles and why. And, I know as like a costume designer, that was always a big thing for me, especially making the transition from, a stylist to a costume designer, where you don't have control of the hair, of the, and not everyone in the industry, especially on films, they don't really hire it. It's such a whole different world. And so they literally have someone, especially when it's, a Black set, someone, and I'm no disrespect to, there are a lot of great hairstylists, but if you are a director and you're not really into hair, you're not going to know, oh, what's the best hairstylist that I should hire for this job, and how can, and incorporating that in your films and along with the wardrobe. I mean, I used to try and work really closely with the hairstylists because I was like, what you do with the hair is going to complete my whole look. So if we're not on the same page, if you're up here doing bantu knots and, with the, this really amazing hairstyle, and I have her in a super casual look, or it's just not going to help tell the story. It's not.
Yeah, it needs to gel. I think that's the other beautiful part of it. I love to collaborate with the stylist, the makeup artist, and the talent. And we start from the vision that the talent has. And to be honest, in most of the projects that I've worked with, even though I respect the directors and the cinematographers very much, I know that it is the talent's decision of how they're going to be portrayed on screen. And so that is always the most important to me with our team. And then we're able to really develop something.
I'd like to shout out a recent episode of Project Runway. They started with a group of Black women and Black hair designers. And they started with the hair, Bantu knots, braids, crowns, all of it. And the designers had to then create looks that went with the hair, you guys. It happened last week. It was,
Wow.
Love
It's
that.
epic.
it was huge.
You know, I'd love to chime in here because I think so much of what you're saying is so valuable in my perspective, and what we're driving in our world is that what you're talking about really is an insiders club, right? It's all of this information and knowledge that is held within this certain group of people. And when we're thinking about the baseline people in the industry, you know, the hairstylists that are trying to come up and trying to become a celebrity stylist, how do they feel empowered, like Tanika said, to stand their ground, to stay rooted? You know, how do they gain that sort of confidence that you all are talking about? And it's really through access of education, of knowledge, of mentors, of coaches. And that's one of the biggest gaps in the industry. And so we have actually a lot of data that shows and proves that there is a stark difference in the gap between Caucasian educators in the industry and Black and Latinx educators in the industry. And there are tons of program and spotlighting that are going towards these Caucasian educators that are running different programs. And there's a very small amount that are going to Black and Latinx educators. And so that's, for me, where I see a huge opportunity to really start to be the shift and make the shift in the industry. And it starts with giving access in the spotlight, the platform, to these educators that are Black and Latinx, and then allowing them to showcase and pull other people forward. And yeah, I think it's really powerful what you all are talking about. And for me, it's about that baseline education. Like, how do we get the spotlight on them even more?
And getting them and helping them get into the unions, because
Yes.
that's part of it too. If you're not in the union, then you're kind of limited in the, you know, the work that the projects you're able to work on and the celebrities you're able to work with.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
and it's not like a celebrity can always just bring on their, you know, personal hairstylists, because there's the whole union thing.
Yes.
It is important for celebrities to, like a Viola Davis, her ripping off that wig. Those moments are powerful.
Yeah.
And every time a Taraji goes, no, I'm wearing braids, or any of them rebel against the system. If you see it, you can achieve it. Then a Black woman who's new to the game can say, do you remember when Viola played a lawyer? She had natural hair. Then they go, oh, okay, if it's been done before. All of that adds to this revolution, this hair revolution that we're in right now. And it's very potent. So every single time one woman does it, it adds to our cause.
Yeah, I think that goes back to, that's a great point, back to the normalizing it. April, as you talked about, making sure that people have the resources and the education. Beth, as you talked about, making sure that there's representation behind the camera that knows how it's supposed to show up. And then to our wonderful celebrity hairstylist who is helping to, Shaylin, who is helping to bring it all together in terms of clients and making sure that clients and the people that are in front of the screen can show up with their very best selves. This has been an amazing conversation and we need to wrap up. I just want to ask you all one last question. If you were to put a creative body of work out right now surrounding this conversation, what would be the title?
Hairvolution.
Hairvolution?
Crown and Glory.
So Tanika says Crown and Glory.
I would say magnify the crown. Just so
magnify the crown.
Bigger. You thought it was what you thought. You thought you knew what it was, but it's bigger than that.
So from crown to hold the crown to magnify the crown.
I would say claim your throne. And it's funny, I thought that before either of you went to the crown. And so we're on the same thread.
Claim your throne. And so, Beffy, I guess you have to bring up the rear.
I know. I'm like, I know it sounds, but pride and joy. Because
pride and joy.
On both. Like,
I love that. When I thought about
my hair, and
I love that. And when I thought about you, Beffy, I thought about unlocked.
Ooh.
Because as we talked about audacity and freedom and authenticity and standing in your true self, and even the journey you talked about with your hair and your locks, thought about unlocked. So thank you all so much for joining us for an amazing conversation. It has been a pleasure to hang out with you, with each of you ladies today, having really important conversations about equity in hair and in makeup. in making sure that our stories are told. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for attending this panel presented by SheaMoisture.